So I'm going to answer that just with like kind of the backstory.
Okay.
And so when I was with Green River Ordnance, I managed the band off and on. I booked the band off and on. I marketed the band off and on. I acted as a record label off and on. And one of my big goals in wearing those hats was how do I take someone from just a casual listener to a super fan? Someone that comes to one concert, comes to all the concerts. Someone that buys one CD, back when people bought CDs, that buys all the CDs. And what I found was the more people felt like they knew us, the more likely they were to feel connected to us, the more likely they were to become that super fan. And so they had, when there was this personal, like, I know them, it deepened the relationship, they're more likely to be the super fan. So a big part of our marketing strategy really shifted from sidewalk chalk, come to the concert, you know, to sign with a label and look how cool we are. Here's tour posters, come to the concert, buy the CD, to here's what I'm eating for breakfast. Right. Or here's my dog, or here's what we're listening to in the bus, or here's what we're doing backstage. And so it was very content heavy, inviting people behind the scenes, saying, here's our story on a personal level. So I'd show up in Minneapolis and someone would be like, Jamey, how's your dog Oliver? And I'm like, I've never met you, but you think, but you know, but they felt like they knew me, which was the point. And so fast forward, when I opened Brood, I was kind of in charge of marketing for Brood, the restaurant. And I was like, I'm not going to spend a penny on advertising. And the reason being is my personal theory is that the moment someone shows up on my phone or on my TV or on my radio and says, buy this thing, we tend to tune out. We're so inundated with advertising that we instantly goes in one ear and out the other. And not even that, just you're annoying me and I don't want to follow you.
Right.
And so I one of the mistakes I see a lot of businesses make is, one, they treat things like advertising, and two, they treat their social media like advertising. They get online and say, buy this thing, buy this thing, buy this thing. And I'm like, no one wants to follow that. And so with Brood, I was like, I'm gonna try marketing it the way I marketed the band. And we're gonna do a lot of content. We're gonna do a lot of social media. And instead of saying, you know, here's a cup of coffee, come buy it, I was like, I'm never gonna say come buy it. Instead, we're going to say, hey, here's your cup of coffee, and here's where it came from. Or here's John, the barista, who poured it, and here's their story. Or here's Joe, our regular, and here's his story drinking the cup of coffee. It was very story-driven content. And so we very quickly grew to have more social media followers than any restaurant in Fort Worth at the time. It brought a lot of people in the doors. And then when we were doing 670 Homes, it was a similar thing. You know, every other real estate agent and company in town, if you look at their social media, it's like, here's a house, buy a house, here's a house, buy a house. And when you look at their websites, it's like, here's a house, search for the house. And instead we were saying, here's what we're doing, here's my kids on the job site, here's why, here's the heart and the mission behind it, here's the families that we're helping. And if you go to 670 Homes website, it's all people. I think people buy people. And one of the other things that we did was, I think when you communicate in story, people listen. When you tell a story, people perk up. When you say, come buy this, people tune out. And so we took a lot of time to craft our story, and specifically our customer story. I think there's two main stories when I talk about storytelling, which is a fluffy word. I think there's your customer story. Here's what you want. Here's how we make your life better. Because like for you, no one wants an insurance agent. No one wants that. What they want is like to protect their business and not get sued. You know, or when something bad happens, like you got it covered. You know, and so how do you communicate that?